Was that the sound? Okay.
I do all the background noises.
Okay. See if I can try not look super chunky in this. Okay. That's about enough. Okay. So, let's have confession time.
Okay.
Confession time is that we sat here last night. We started at what time?
Like 10:15.
Was that the first shoot?
And yeah, and then we started like watching some YouTube videos, remember?
But I thought we started a little bit earlier. It was 10:15? Okay.
Yeah.
So at 10:15, yours truly and the lovely lady over here embarked on shooting Q&A Saturday. Everything was written up. We'd done all of our work. We were all set up. Lights ready, camera, action, makeup, ready to rock. We shot, and it sucked. And we shot again.
And it sucked
And
several
it
more
sucked.
times.
And I think it increasingly sucked. We kept trying. We were looking to just to do the intro, which was supposed to be the funny intro. We typically, as you guys know,
I was being funny.
Okay. So one of us was being funny. One of us was a little more handicapped in that department, and so typically we like to start off the show with a little levity, a little bit of like breaking everybody in, like, hey, what's going on, and maybe like lay some jokes on you, something you might not see coming, and then jump right into the show. And sometimes that's as Paul McCartney said, a long and winding road. And we wound and we went and we went left and right and left and right, and we couldn't really find little nuggets. You know, I don't know if you're going to cut in your little escapades about the priest telling you
there was some moments when we were like
the
laughing
sinner
really.
box. What was it? The box for sinner.
The box where you go in to sin when you have sinned.
The box where you go in when you have. I can't.
When
even
you tell
say it.
people your sins.
Okay. So we went into a
The
fairly
sin
long
box.
discussion of that, and that had some good stuff. That definitely had some good stuff. And then we just couldn't like wrap it up. We couldn't like tie it together. And comedy, fun, levity. It's like you can't just like hit a high point and then just peter out. And we kind of just petered out. So
Yeah.
basically, the reality is we tried, and I don't know what time did we wrap last night as for the final attempt.
I mean, I think it was like 1:30, 2. I know I fell asleep at 2 a.m.
Right in that chair, answering questions.
Like this.
You're like,
And I'm so sorry
put a
about that.
prong collar on your dog. Anyways, so it just didn't go right, guys, and we were both really depressed, and we were both really bummed out because we really wanted to get it done, and then that would have left us all of today for Marta to be able to edit it, so she wouldn't have been. Oh, I said that word right for the first time. Like, I always
Nice, look
struggle.
at you.
Like, I just had to not think about it.
Bad.
If I think about it again, I'll
Okay, let's not think
I'll
about that
totally
too much.
bamboozle it. So Marta could take care of the editing process.
Let's rewind. We were
Okay.
supposed to start shooting at 6 p.m. so that we would wrap about 8 p.m. so that I would have until midnight to edit it, right? We didn't start shooting until 10, so I was like, I'm sorry, but like we have clients coming in the morning. I will have to do it sometime throughout the day. So I won't get to edit it tonight.
And to be fair, I said that's okay. Whenever it comes out, right?
But
So
then it
no
wasn't
pressure.
great, so-
What's that?
But then it turned out to not be so great.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, as we were doing it, yes, it started late. Yes, there were problems. Yes, we weren't funny. Yes, I wasn't in the groove. I had zero to say. And if we did get into something good, it immediately, like, it just didn't go anywhere. So that's the full reality. That's our full transparent. That's us going into the box where you sin and telling our sins, like,
We
here-
had in a box of sins.
yeah, here's our transparency. Like, we went in, we're like, we tried really hard, and it just wasn't happening. And I don't know in the past of doing Q&A Saturdays if I've ever stopped mid shoot and said we need to do it over or we need to scrap it. And that's no blame on you. It's just I just wasn't in the right spot. But it's an interesting thing. Like, I just couldn't get it, and I would be in the middle of giving examples or answers to people's questions, and I'd be like, this sucks. You're just like, and it wasn't that the information was bad, it was just the delivery was
Yeah, it
like,
was very just like
and so anyways, you can't tell because you couldn't see yesterday, but I'm much more perky today, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, you had a good day today.
Yeah. So
You did lots of great
couple
stuff.
things I did to make sure that I didn't put myself into a space of being like massively worn out was I didn't do a massive workout right before we shoot, which is typically what I do. I
I
typically
have
do.
no idea how you can even stay awake after this bike ride because let me tell you one thing.
Tell me.
I mean, you guys, because you already know.
Okay.
The bike ride that Sean does is like basically where he goes to turn around and go back is where my school is at. So when it's school time, I bike there every morning and bike back, and I was like, yeah, I can do that bike ride. I do it every day, like piece of cake. It was a piece of cake until we started freaking.
Until we made the big turn.
Oh my god.
The U-turn.
Terrible. I thought I was dying, but I had to keep up because I didn't want to get lost. I was
Your
dying.
ego is involved too. You're like, I can't let him win.
Truth be told, I hate with everything. I would rather clean the house upside and down and clean diarrhea out of crates than do cardio.
That's coming when I get older. Not in a
with
crate.
your diapers.
Yeah.
I'll take care of you.
No, thanks, appreciate it.
But
Oh,
yeah,
no,
I hate.
Just don't put me in the crate.
I won't put you in a crate.
Okay.
I
Baby
promise.
crib's okay.
Let me out.
Compromises.
I hate cardio, so I hate doing this. I love going to the gym and like doing some like plyo and some weights, but like I will not do cardio.
But a bike ride is different because it's a bike ride. It's fun. It's exciting.
Yeah,
You see things. You're
at
not
my
just sitting
own
on a machine
pace.
like.
Yeah, but at my own pace. Your
Yeah.
pace is killing me.
You asked if you could ride with me, and
Yeah,
I
if you
wanted
would.
you.
Yeah, no, I enjoy doing it, but I will do it once a month, and that will do.
Okay.
And once a month, you should do a leg workout with me.
Okay. And her face every time we stopped at a red light was just beaming bright red, and just like.
Worse than my hair.
Yeah, she was in tough shape. Anyways, guys, so that I guess is about the funniest story we have to share is that we went through this several times last night and it just didn't work. It couldn't come together. Sometimes it's like you see a band or you see an artist performing or an actress or an actor or comedian. It's just an off night. It happens to everybody. Back when I was playing drums, it would happen, like whether to me or somebody else in the band. You just like, sometimes it just ain't there. And yesterday was one of those days. So we decided like, okay, what do you think we take another fucking shot at this? Because we're going to be flying out tomorrow bright and early, but maybe.
And I still have to get the house ready.
I know. We've been cleaning and working and teamwork and doing the thing. I'm all packed. We got to get you packed. Got to get this place clean for Henri. Write her up a whole like list of how to stay safe in New Orleans. Don't go out after dark. Don't go out alone. Don't what?
I was just thinking about Henri asking Shelby if she needs a jacket. What she needs is a bikini and some confidence to like not wear clothes as she goes outside.
Yeah. Henri texted Shelby today and was like, Shelby, do I need a jacket? And Shelby's like, Shelby's response was, you need all of your jackets. So it's about 92 with a heat index of 102 with massive humidity. So it's just insane. Anyways, I don't want to drag this out too long because we could lose our mojo partway through this and then crash and burn. So we got to like keep moving. Anyways, guys, so I know this wasn't exceptionally funny, but it was a very honest, transparent, heart-to-heart talk from us
in our
to
sins
you.
box.
What's that?
In our sins box. In the box of sins.
Yes, I'm not sure where that came from, but maybe that's the funniest part. Just the non sequitur. It's a very German thing. She just kind of jumps.
No, because there was our confession in our box of sins.
Oh, right.
You just gotta think outside the box, Sean. Think outside the box.
Outside the confessional box.
See, I'm so funny. Just saying.
It's so hard. You need like a trail map to keep up with her thought process because she leaves out vital pieces of information and then expects you to connect the dots of like where that joke just went or where that logical conclusion just went. I know you're moving faster than my slow brain, but you have to kind of like throw some breadcrumbs down and lead me along. Anyways, so here we go. Boom, 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 breadcrumbs. Guys, let's get into the fucking show. Let's go while we still got it. All right? Hey everybody, it's Sean from The Good Dog, and this is The Good Dog's Q&A Saturday episode number 1. We'll have to put that dog down too. Episode 148.
Who nails it every time?
I'll even give you one of these.
Bang! Boom, brother.
Okay, so moving on. Okay, let's talk about some quick news before that goes any deeper. All right, so the news is the leashes are landing everywhere. We're getting pictures, videos, all sorts of information, all sorts of reports back from people like, oh my God, we're using the leash. It's so great, da 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 da. Showing trainers using them, owners using them. They're basically like. They're really landing everywhere. I think this last week, boom, they really hit. International orders went out yesterday. Yesterday. What does that mean?
The day before, when they watch it, it's going to be yesterday.
Yesterday. Don't you like that? That's cute. Just a little extra, yesterday instead of the day before yesterday. So all you international peeps, they're coming. Hang tough, okay? We've got new hair. The hair is now some shade of...
Very red. It's not going to stay that color.
I'm calling it magenta, but...
But it's not going to stay that color, guys, because once I wash my hair once or twice, it's going to be like a nice coppery ginger, because ginger, I like ginger. It suits me very well.
For all the men out there watching, which probably aren't that many, the picture she showed me was like this gloriously multi-textured and hued red that looks super natural, and I was like,
for all the women out there watching, you all understand that it takes a few washes to get the actual color.
I'm just saying. So I saw this picture and I was like, I sign off on that. That looks fantastic. And then she showed up and it was like,
no, he hates it. No, he hates it. Now he wants a
No. I do not hate it. I'm far from hating it. I'm just saying it wasn't the color that I was promised.
It will be like
okay.
2-3 weeks.
I'm waiting. I'm patient.
Be patient.
It's sweet when she calls me Mia Moore. Anyways, that's when she's trying to dig herself out of trouble. Okay, so tomorrow we go where?
LA.
Yes. What time do we leave?
It's a good question. We have to be there at 6, but I need to do a lot of stuff here, so we'll probably.
Do you want to give them some information about which 6? Because there's 2 6s.
6 a.m.
The bad 6.
It's when we have to be there, which means we have to leave here by 5:30 at the latest.
What time's the flight?
7.
Okay, and I'm checking in some questionable luggage.
So we probably have to leave here at 5 to be safe, which gives us 2 hours.
Okay.
Which is a good time, which means I have to be up at 3. And what's the point of me going to bed?
You have to be up at 3?
I have to take care of all the dogs.
Yeah.
And wash our bedding and things like that.
You got a tough gig.
I probably am not going to sleep tonight.
Yeah. I'll make sure that I snore quietly, so it's not to disturb you or not to annoy you. Anyways, okay, and then beyond that, Love Them by Leading Them is now officially on Audible, which we've been working on for big props to Alexis. Been working on that for a long time. She got it up there. I almost said she got it up. That won't work. She got it up there. I had to add some extra pieces. I had to go back into the recording studio to add some extra pieces to make it Audible approved. Did that, and I had to read, I like doing the little reading thing. I had to go in. And it was simple stuff. 2 little bumper things on each end, or they wouldn't allow it, even though it was highly professional recording. And it was like, Love Them by, The Good Dog Way. Love Them by Leading Them, written by Sean O'Shea, narrated by Sean O'Shea. Copyright 2000 and God knows what. And that was it. And then at the end, it was like, you've been listening to Love Them by Leading Them, written by Sean O'Shea, narrated by Sean O'Shea. And I'm out. And that was it. So it's up. It's on Audible. I'd love for any of you who enjoy the book to please check out the Audible version. We really went knee deep. We went really deep into doing a fantastic job of this isn't just me reading through it just willy-nilly. This is me working with somebody who does some high-end audio books, and we did it like super detailed, and it's really done well, super high quality. And I add an extra couple pieces in that audiobook that don't exist anywhere else, so you get some bonuses with it as well. What else just happened? The Kindle version, this is crazy. I wouldn't, if we would have recorded last night, I wouldn't have had this information to share. The Kindle version of Love Them by Leading Them is now currently, this is pretty damn cool to say, the #1 new release in dog training. Beating out, I was going to say Boy George, but that's not his name. Zach George. And Zach George, actually, strangely enough, most people don't know, lives here in New Orleans. He's a very successful YouTube guy. I don't know if he actually trains dogs and has a website or anything like that, but he does he has a huge following on YouTube. He's purely positive, and in my world, he's kind of the Antichrist. He stands for everything that I rail against. I'm sure he's a nice enough guy, but all I've ever seen in his videos are some of the most horrific excuse-making, rationalizing, justifying BS for dog training that I've ever seen. So we're beating him. He's the second book under us, and he's, I think, got a real live publisher, and we're just like self-published, and we're out there kicking ass. So super exciting. And if anybody who's bought the Kindle version wants to put in a share a review, we'd so appreciate it. The reviews absolutely help people to discern, like, is this a book worth checking out? Is this a book worth reading? And for people that aren't in this world, the good dog world, the balanced world, and who haven't come across it, it may be a book they've never heard of and may not understand, like, what's the concept? Are they teaching, obedience training, and the fact that it's something very different? I think if you guys shared your reviews, you might be able to help clue people in on why the book is valuable. So that's that. And then T3 Rhode Island is coming up July 15th to the 21st. Mm-hmm. So that is, what's the date today?
The 22nd.
22nd. So it's 3 weeks out. There's only one more T3 after this, and then we're done for the year. So it's already booming. There's a ton of people coming, but we do have a few spaces left. And if you want to get your dog training together, your business together, and get your life together, which might sound a bit lofty or pompous, but I'm telling you, the folks that have come through T3 with open minds and been driven and down for the work ethic have pivoted out of there and created amazing businesses and amazing lives. And so I don't say that just to try and pull you in. Explore it. Call other T3ers. Dig in. All I know is that it's been a seminar that's helped people completely transform their lives from where they were stuck to getting into a place that's actually special and maybe even a little magical, if I do say so myself. So with that, I'm going to jump out of the news because that was quite a bit. I'm winded. So let's jump into question 1.
Okay.
I've got new painted pants on. My Levi's signature painted pants. Ashley Smintek. Eat my dust. Eat my shorts. Even though I don't wear shorts. I've got a third pair on the way too. I might just wear these until my
Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that.
untimely demise.
Don't say that.
Okay.
Question number 1 on Facebook from Jade Lombardo.
Yep.
Hello. Hello. I was waiting for you to say hi, but
Hi.
we have a 1-year-old male cane corso. In our area, there are only a handful of trainers to go to, and almost all of them are positive reinforcement only.
Yeah.
We have tried a few, and while our boy knows basic commands, sit, lie down, come, we can't get him to stop jumping up on us when we attempt to take him for a walk. His walking has improved since the recent introduction of a prong collar, despite the trainer's advice. He jumps with so much force, it's as if he wants to knock us down. He's over 100 pounds.
As if.
He's over 100 pounds now and isn't fully grown. I am only 5'2" and cannot so much to physically push him off. He will also turn his head, grab the leash, and thrash his head about, growling aggressively. And when we attempt to get the leash away from him or move our hand close to take the leash out of his mouth, he will mouth our hands or arms or whatever is near, and then jumps up on us. How can we stop this before it gets worse? It's quite the question.
So let me preface all of these questions. There wasn't really a softball question in the bunch. I looked. I like to give myself at least like 1 or 2 softballs so I can like stay easy and not be too like overwhelmed by how intense it is to try and decipher this stuff, because the real challenge is that I'm trying to go into a question that I have very little information, even if they write information out about what's going on, unless I'm seeing the dog, unless I'm seeing the owner, unless I'm working with them, unless I'm seeing the responses in the moment, it's incredibly difficult to try and bring forth any information that is right on the money. So this is always a bit of a challenging, I don't want to say risky, but challenging and a roll of the dice, if you will, as far as information goes. So it's always hard for me because I would much prefer if I could like zap myself into your house and see and go, oh, okay, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. Work on these and we can really get you into a good space. So all I can go by is what I've got, and so yeah, that's all I have to say. Those are all my excuses. First, I'm going to read off of here because some important information. 1, your dog is bullying you. Straight up, straight across the board. There's no getting around it. It's not excitement. It's not play. It's not fun. It's no bullshit like that a lot of people would put it into category-wise. Your dog is straight up bullying you. Like, just grab it. Grab that, absorb it, and understand what that means. Your dog has zero respect for you. And most likely, it's going to get worse. He's young. He's a year old. You have a strong breed dog, a cane corso, like dogs that are meant to be handled by strong leaders. And when they push the boundaries of what's available, what's possible, what happens when we do this, and the response that comes back to them is soft, unsure, weak, able to be steamrolled, boy, does that give them a green light. And like I said, he's young. Wait till he's like 2.5. It's only going to get worse. So you've got yourself in a bit of a pickle. You picked a strong dog, whether you rescued it or it showed up on your front door or you picked him out from a breeder, doesn't matter. You've got yourself a strong ass dog. And to be honest, the only way to really mitigate the situation is to become a strong ass owner. And if that dog was living with me, that would be what I'd have to do. I couldn't treat that dog the same way I treat Manny, or I used to be able to treat Belle, or even your dogs that are softer. We're talking about a dog that would most likely need a firmer approach, and I don't mean an abusive approach. I mean a firmer energy, a firmer space, a firmer state of mind, a firmer looking for little moments of pushy, bratty nastiness and nailing it, going after it, and starting to suppress all of this bullshit to where the dog is like, oh, I can't get away with that, 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 which starts to take this attitude and this brattiness and this bullying, it starts to bring it down, down, down. Otherwise, what happens if you don't do that? All of those little moments where those things are happening goes like this. And that's what you guys have got going on. I just want to be crystal clear with you. I'm not trying to paint an ugly picture. I'm trying to paint a really honest picture. So if you've got the prong on, if you can get the prong on, if you've got the dog crated, if you can get the prong on and bring the dog out on a prong and leash, you're way ahead of the game. That may not be the case. I don't know what your situation. Once again, I'm trying to read information without having all the details. If you can get a prong and leash on him prior to going out for the walk or anything like that, or as soon as you start engaging with him, then as soon as he starts jumping or getting crazy or anything, you're basically dealing with an aroused, excited dog in this kind of like intense space. That's when you correct. That's when you punish. That's when you want to go after arousal. You want to punish arousal. Punish means to decrease or eliminate. So it doesn't mean hit him with a stick. It means decrease or eliminate. So you've got a dog who's all amped up and all loosey-goosey, and it's allowing him to get into a negative space. You need, if you've got the prong collar on, boom, firm correction, relaxed body language from you, intense eye contact. I don't mean like this. I mean like knock it off, right? Like you have to be able to conjure up something physiologically and emotionally that when you interact with your dog, he actually gives a shit about what you just did. If you try and just do it through the tools, like I said, prong collar on, awesome. But if you try and just give your dog a strong pop, but you've created no context of a believable being that the dog lives with, it's just a prong collar, it's just discomfort, and it doesn't mean shit. So you need to find out how you can become a stronger leader in order for this dog to buy into you. Once again, that's presupposing you guys do that. Then prong and leash on. Dog comes out, if it's in the crate, as it should be. Dog comes out, starts tap dancing, getting loosey-goosey. No, pop. And I mean a firm pop. It means, when I say pop, it doesn't mean pull and hold, which most owners do. It means pop fast with some oomph behind it and release it just as fast. You want it to be pow, just like that. And you want the dog to go whew, and you want the dog to really think, holy shit, like these aren't my owners. What was that? And you're going to get a lot of people say, oh, that's terrible. And you're going to teach him aggression, and you're going to suppress the warning signs, and he's going to become more aggressive. And the only way he becomes more aggressive, the only way that this suppression turns into this ticking time bomb or any of this stuff is if you don't do this stuff right, is if you do a half-assed version of punishing this stuff, if you go after your dog in a half-assed fashion, if you present yourself in a half-assed fashion, then you might have a dog that's like you're trying to talk to me and tell me what to do, I'm just not buying it. Then you can find yourself in trouble. I'm not going to lie to you. So it's not a magic trick. It's about like, here's a tough dog. What do we need to do to balance out that tough dog and get him into a good space? It means we need tough owners, it means we need the right tools, and it means we need to understand about going after arousal in its tiniest space, tiniest state before it lifts up and goes bananas. It should not be a hard thing for you to correct a dog, even a big one, from jumping up on you. If you don't have the right tools, it can be more challenging. But even then, pop your knee into that dog's chest and do it like you freaking mean it. Don't be like, I don't want to hurt his feelings. I hope it's like he's okay. Like, I don't care if you're 102 pounds. Henri, who's, what is she? Is she 100? I don't even know if she's 100. She might be under 100. She's right around there. Henri is under 5 foot tall and works with, I'm going to post a video tomorrow of her working with a Great Dane. And she's got no issues with sharing consequences with dogs that they care about. And that comes from here. It comes from, I mean fucking business. It doesn't come from like, I'm a giant person and the dog's like, whoa, that looks like a bad gamble. It comes from, here's what I'm bringing to the table, and you best respect, listen, and adhere to what I'm asking for, which everybody's going to be like, oh, that's so harsh and so like controlling of the dog. It's like, well, what are the options? Cane Corso continues to do this, gets worse and worse and worse, starts biting people, starts maybe biting you, starts knocking people down, hurts people, breaks people's hips, rips skin open on accident just with the nails, things like that, gets surrendered, gets put down, what have you. So you can either go firm with your firm dog, or you can go soft with your firm dog and find yourself in big trouble. Now, I'm going to just close this out with, you should have the absolute best tools. leash and prong at the bare minimum. You should do e-collar training so that way you don't have to do all of this kind of like physical interaction. If possible, you can actually correct the dog with the e-collar and have your dog go, whoa, you're way more powerful than I thought you were. For that, you may need a balanced trainer to come in and help you move through that process and get into a good space to where your dog actually gives a crap about who you are and treats you in a respectful fashion. I'm just going to tell you guys, this is such a simple freaking concept. Does your dog respect you? Does your dog not respect you? And how you get them from point A to point B is not super complex, but we've made it this mysterious, unacceptable, socially frowned upon thing, and that's why people are struggling left and right. So I'm going to close it out with that, and I wish you the best of luck.
And you mentioned that there's no close, there's only a handful of trainers and they are almost all pure positive. Just as a side note, that we have had plenty of people who traveled up to like 3 days to come and see us. Christine drove like 3 days.
Yep.
So I'm not saying you have to travel 3 days because that means you are
But there
serious
are
about
other
training.
trainers. There are other balance trainers that might be closer.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
trying to say.
yeah.
Find the nearest one that you like, who has a great social media stuff going on, to someone who you trust and you can follow them and see what they're about. And if it means you have to travel a few hours or a day, but it's the closest one and you really like them, I strongly suggest you would do that.
Yeah, and like I said, if your dog was here with me, boy, he would know within a day, don't F around. I run this house, this is not your house. If you're running your house like this dog and you guys are like cohabitating and it's like, he's so handsome and most of the time he's great. It's like, but if you don't have that clear distinction, my house, my rules, don't F around, you guys are in big trouble with a dog like that. So,
Cool. Ready for number 2?
question number 2. Question number 2.
No, that's what I say.
I'm introducing you. Question number 2.
Question number 2.
Question number 2.
Number 2.
Question number 2.
Facebook Monica MFR. Hi, I just purchased both your The Foundation and E-Collar DVD training program. Prior to that, I had been doing most of the basic exercises from YouTube from you and Solid Canine, and also using a mini educator a bit. I have a pit bull rescue adopted 2 months ago. He is deaf and I imagine e-collar is a great idea for him. I am new to this kind of training and love it. Question, how should I go about the DVD series? Start from scratch with prong only, add e-collar, or he's good on the walk and knows place, threshold and crate, but things are still quite rough around the edges. I would say he's at stage 2. Would appreciate your suggestions. Many thanks.
Like I said, no softballs this week, right? So basically, we're going to try and tackle how do you train a blind pit bull to be e-collar trained?
A deaf.
I'm sorry, a deaf. Thank you. We've had blind ones before. A deaf pit bull, how to be e-collar trained, prong collar trained, the whole deal. So bear with me. It's quite the thing. I was like, there's got to be some easy questions, but there weren't. So hopefully these will be happy, helpful, and happy. I'd like them to be happy as well. Okay, so here's the deal. We've done a lot of deaf pitties and other dogs as well. And what you need to make sure you do is you have to start incorporating hand signals, because that's going to be your main method, your main mode of communication with the dog. So what I would do, I'm so glad that you got both programs, because they're literally built to work off of each other. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think it's like, oh, I'm going to do the Prong Foundation, DVD, or I'm going to do the e-collar. It's like, they don't realize that it's built exactly how we train dogs. So we start with the Prong Foundation, and then we add the e-collar on top of it. So you're a smart cookie, because you're doing it just like what we would be doing. So regardless of whether your dog's at stage 2, I don't really know exactly what that means. I'm assuming you're talking about through e-collar stuff, as far as like, rather than just press and hold, that you're moving to press, holding, and getting off the button sooner. But I'm going to take a few steps back. I'm going to say, let's do sit, down, place, recall, let's go, break, and heal. And heal. So we're going to have to create hand signals for all of that stuff. And what you can do is you can do that very easily with the prong. You can also start with food. Now, if your dog's super food motivated, we typically start most of these guys, unless they're dangerous, we typically start them with food stuff luring, right? So it's a real easy one. I'm gonna show you what we do, but it's transferable to all the other commands. That's why it's worth the time. So for sit, you have food, dog's in front of you, over, above, like not above, but in front of their nose and over their head. You say sit, you lift up, butt tends to hit the ground, boom, you give the food, right? So that would be the sit signal. Down, strangely enough, is this, and then you feed. Place, what we do is, once again, this gets so complicated. I'm trying to unravel this because we typically do it with leash and prong, but I'm just offering you an option of doing it with food. So you still need to have a long line on your dog as you're doing this. But as you're teaching the dog place, we use this for place, like almost like you're safe. We do that over the mat, right? So as the dog's coming towards it, we've got the leash on the dog, and we're guiding the dog towards place, and then we like that, and then the dog steps on, and then we mark it. And I'm going to talk to you about how to mark it as well. This is like I'm saying, this is an incredibly dense amount of information to try and get into this little thing. So I'm going to do my very, very best. So once again, let me see if I can just break it down and just kind of nail this down in a few small pieces. So we can start with food, with luring and hand signals, right? And I'll show you all the hand signals at the end of this, just to be crystal clear. But what I would recommend, most likely from where you're at, I would recommend leash and prong, and I would recommend one hand on the leash and prong, sit by pulling up a little bit on the leash gently, along with this food in this hand, and the dog starts to sit, butt hits the ground, then you feed. Now, along with that, we also have a marker for good, and so we use this. So, once again, I'm going to show them all at the end, but I have to kind of like build them in. So, sit, hand coming up, luring the dog, butt hits the ground, good, food. And the dog starts to get it. Oh, okay, cool. When I see this, means hit the ground, or hit the ground. It means have my butt hit the ground, and then I've learned that this means that I've done the right thing, and then I get fed. Now, of course, you can load this just like you would load the clicker. There's plenty of ways to do this, and you can explore it as much as you want. But if you want this to mean like, oh, I did the right thing, you can obviously do this and food, this and food, this and food. And if you don't do it like that and you just build it and do this, the dog will also learn that, oh wow, okay, that means I did it right. So there's a couple of different ways to do it. So once you get your dog to be able to do sit, down, place, and recall, we don't need them to be magnificent. We just need the building blocks, right? So dogs on place, and you've guided him on. As soon as he's on, good, food, and then down, dog downs, good, food, awesome. Now you're starting to get somewhere, right? And then we want to start building the dog up into e-collar work to where you start getting more freedom and you start to be able to communicate with the dog from a distance. And so this is where the e-collar really comes in to its own and is a special magic component of working with deaf dogs. So a lot of folks will use vibration to get dogs' attention. We don't. And the reason we don't is because a lot of the dogs that we work with, they'll just tune out vibration. They see something, they're more excited, they're more interested, they're distracted, you're hitting vibration, and they don't even care. Now, a lot of people argue with it and go like, well, you could condition vibration to mean food, and like, but we've just watched way too many dogs that are like way too intense that just blow it off. So what we do is we do a double tap at a low level. And what we do is we do double tap, dog looks at us, food. Double tap, and he's on a leash, of course. Double tap, dog looks at us, food. Double tap, dog looks at us, food. So what ends up happening is the dog ends up understanding that this quick little tap means I got to look for you. Where are you at? Oh, you're over there. Ah, and you did this. Oh, I got to recall to you. Boom, and it works like that. So this is how you build up the process. So you build it up slow. You make sure that the dog, like if you think about it in a kind of like a comprehensive fashion, you want to make sure the dog understands all the commands: sit, down, place, and recall, and heel. Heel tends to be a bit of an easier one. I mean, you can use hand signals for it, but it's honestly easier to do even without it. Like you can definitely use hand signals like we do for heel, but I've just found that if you're using pressure right and the dog slows down and it's in the right position, you can give him this signal and the dog's like, oh, okay, cool, I'm in the right position. And then you keep walking, the dog moves ahead of you, you're back on pressure on the e-collar, guide him back into the heel position, and then the dog goes, okay, cool, I'm in the right spot. You give him the good. Now, can you add a heel? Can you add this, which is I think the ones that we use typically in LA? You can absolutely use that. So you could be in a sit. And I'm just going to give you a multitude of ways to go about it, because some people like very simple stuff. Some people like more complicated behaviors, more ways to interact with the dog. So I'm going to give them all to you, and you can kind of just pick what you like. So your dog's in a sit, you're at a corner, and you could just step off and walk, and your dog will walk with you. Or you could have taught your dog that this means, I'm trying to remember, I'm trying to like go back a ways. We haven't done a deaf dog in a while.
The last one in LA, we haven't done a heel thing.
Yeah, so a lot of times we don't, but I've seen us do it before, and I'm just adding to it. So if your dog's in a sit and you go like that, and a lot of people will be like, well, that means stay or something like that. No, I'm sorry, this is what it is. This is what it is. Just, boy, it's been a while. It's actually dog sitting down in front of you like this, and it's you take your hand over his head and go like that. That's what it is. That's what we do
for Let's Go. Through thresholds, in crates, and through the door, things like that. Out of the crate, let's
right.
go. Off of place,
yeah,
let's go.
Right. And you're totally right. But we also, because for deaf dogs, just to not make it too complicated, we use that also for them to move into a heel. So, and she's 100% right. And it took me a while to kind of remember all this stuff. But the fact of the matter is, if we've got a dog in a crate and we want to teach them a hand signal for coming out, this is like an invitation, like, come on out. Means let's go. If you want to do that with a car, let's go. If you want to move, a dog out of the front door, up steps, let's go. But we also use it when a dog's at a sit or in a sit and we want to make them move into a heel. It goes like this. The let's go means move with me, but then you can just cultivate it very nicely, and the dog will make easy distinctions about, okay, this is what heel means. So here's the deal. Let's do all the signals. So this means that you've taught your dog all the behaviors, your dog understands what the e-collar means, and you've been using hand signals to get your dog to respond to you appropriately. So remember, the first one has to be attention, because if your dog isn't looking at you and your dog doesn't care, then you're not going to get anywhere. So you need the double tap, food, double tap, food, double tap, food. It's really low. It's just enough to get their attention. But if they're really distracted, you can dial it up a little bit, double tap at a 12, and all of a sudden they're like, ooh, I gotta look for you. Great. The vibration, you don't have that option. So first, we gotta get attention. Then you can teach sit, then you can teach down, then you can teach recall. Some folks will teach recall like this. That's also another option. I did that with my guys early on. But you can also do this. I said sit down. Place is like this. So as the dog is coming over the mat, hold this up. We'll do a little, both hands, please, both hands. So this is the dog bed. Dog's coming this way, and as I'm walking the dog towards it, I go like this. Right? I think I went like this. I think I was lying.
You were lying, yeah,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like that.
It's so hard to do this
Because
stuff.
you have one hand, hold this.
Yeah.
You have one hand with your leash, and then you have place here.
Exactly.
So you guide them and you go like that.
Exactly. But it's so hard, like, if you don't have the dog in front of you to remember, you know what I mean? Because we don't deal
Yeah, I
with
remember
1,000
everything.
deaf dogs. Did you say you remember everything?
I said I remember vividly.
Oh, everything. Okay, vividly, everything. Anyways, so as you're guiding your dog onto place, it's this. And then when you want to have your dog come off, let's go. And that's what that hand signal looks like.
And then
Right, so we've got this for good
or that.
or that. You can choose whichever one you like. But we use for no. What do we use? Exactly. So if you build all of these things in, then all of a sudden your dog has this vast language of how to work with you. So first of all, it's dependent on understanding the e-collar, understanding the commands, make sure you can get attention, and then make sure your dog understands what all these different, signals, all these hand signals mean in order for your dog to do well. And we've had dogs like jamming. We've had
Astra is on YouTube. If you want to check it out, Astra was a super fun dog to work with. She came for
ASTRA.
yeah. She came for dog reactivity and human stuff, and she is out there like living the best life.
So, long answer, but God, that's a tough question.
And quick side note, what I found working with these guys,
Yeah.
when you give commands, yes, they can't hear you, but it makes it so easier for you to be able to give hand signals in a good timing-wise.
By verbally doing it.
Yes. So instead of going, like, it's so hard because you focus so much on doing it, but if you get patterns, just good, no, sit down, it's so much easier to do that. So I would just speak as you do the hand signals, even if the dog can't hear you, it doesn't matter. You say it to help yourself.
I agree 100%. And if you rewind and watch how she looked when she did it, when she was being still and not saying anything, she looked like this. So there wasn't much conversation besides just this. But when she's in a space of saying no, then all of a sudden the eyes change, the body changes, this change. You know what I mean? So
You look so sassy.
I am sassy, but it's an important thing that if you're doing it, you may not notice, and I bet a lot of owners don't notice. But saying the commands, and some people feel weird about it, like, oh, I said the command. It's like the dog's not gonna like give you a demerit because you said the command. They're like, oh my God, he's cheating. They're not gonna know. So say the command. It'll help with your timing, but I think it'll also help with your body language and your whole delivery of what's going on. Boy, was that a long question. I think I need a nap.
Okay.
I hope that helps. Any questions, hit us up. But that's the basic of training a deaf dog in 40 minutes.
Ready for the next question?
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
Okay, what's question number 3?
Question number 3 is from Emmanuel. Yeah? Emmanuel L. Michael. How did you get started training dogs? What's your recommendation for someone wanting to become a trainer?
I just want to say,
On Facebook.
I love Emmanuel. I just want to say, Emmanuel, I love you. Finally, an easier question. So, how did I become a dog trainer? I became a dog trainer by doing it all wrong. I always say the same thing. I had 2 rescue dogs that I adopted from the shelter, and both were a mess. One was exceptionally a mess. His name was Oakley. I got him at 8 months. He was a Pit Rhodesian Dane mix. He was gigantic. He was intense. He had prey drive off the hook. He had dog aggression off the hook. He had separation anxiety off the hook. He had reactivity off the hook. And of course, Junior, my first guy, wasn't nearly as bad, but the influence of Oakley brought him to the dark side. Junior would be like, "Oh, we're going after this dog? Let's go, brother." And so, anyways, what I found myself in was a very, very bad situation. I found that the dogs that I could take when they were puppies, puppies, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, I could get away with that and we could have fun and do our thing. And next thing I know, about a year and a half with Oakley, he started going after dogs, chasing dogs, getting nastier with dogs, pinning dogs. And it got worse and it got worse and it got worse and it got worse. And so eventually things got exceptionally bad. The reactivity was so bad that I would be like my like worst, and I don't mean worse as judgmental, but like my most challenged clients, I'd be hiding behind trees, hiding behind cars, avoiding dogs, going the opposite direction. I had both my dogs, listen to this if you want to have some fun, both my dogs were on nylon flat collars with flexi leashes that were 25 feet blue, matching blue, and they were never crated, and they had zero rules, no prong collar, no e-collar, and I just wanted them to be happy, which tells you a lot about where I was at up here and here. I just wanted them to be happy, and funnily enough, they didn't care much about whether I was happy or not. They just did their thing. And so they drugged me across the park on my ass many a morning, on a dewy morning when it was wet and kind of cold, and they'd see a dog and I would be drugged, like a football field, which is humiliating. They would rear up when they would see other dogs and go after each other. They would threaten to pull me down onto the ground. They took, or they didn't take, but they drug my then girlfriend at the time when she had them out for a walk. They saw a dog cross the street, pulled her off her feet, and drug her literally across the hardcore, like not the sidewalk, but the actual street with the rocks and the gravel and stuff, and just tore up her shoulder, dragging her across. So it was really serious. His separation anxiety was so bad that, like, I always make the joke, everything in my life passed through his back end at one time or another. This was back in the day of, like, what is it? VHS, CDs, all sorts of stuff, like old telephones, like push button telephones and things like that. This is like before cell phones and everything. We're talking about 20 years ago, something like that.
I was 5.
And she was young. And so anyways, the separation anxiety was terrible. Ripping up the carpet, pulling off the all of the molding around the doors, breaking through doors, eating through mattresses. Like I said, I would pick up his poop and it would be filled with like crunchy pieces of plastic from VHS tapes, and God only knows how he survived. He ended up damaging several dogs, and he ended up killing a dog many years ago. An accident, a terrible accident, but he, being 90-something pounds, got out of the house. At the end of my driveway was my neighbor who had their dog also off leash, who was a little Pomeranian, and then unfortunately, you can imagine, he picked the dog up. I managed to get the dog out of his mouth instantaneously because I was right behind him, and it didn't matter that he had punctured the dog's lung. Nobody knew. There was no blood or anything, and so the dog died, and it was a terrible experience. And that really kind of pushed me in a space where I was like, I've got to get it together. I've got to get my shit together. I've got to learn how to fix whatever's going on. And so I basically made a promise to my dogs that, for one, I'm not going to live like this anymore. This is miserable. And I'm going to make a promise to get them better because I've obviously messed them up. Some friends of mine recommended Dog Whisperer. I thought it was a very silly name, and I refused to watch it for quite a while. And then I started watching it. And then, of course, like many other people at the time, there wasn't really any exposure to video. I mean, I don't even know if YouTube was out at that time, like in 2002, something like that, 2003.
No way.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I don't think Facebook or anything. So the resources were really limited. What was I saying? What was I saying just before that? So About the,
You started watching him despite you found his name silly.
could you say that in English? What?
You started watching him despite.
Okay,
thinking-
there we go. Thank you very much. And so I started watching Caesar, and although I didn't agree with everything he did, there were a lot of things that even if he didn't explain them perfectly, I could see, that's the mechanics, or those are the mechanics for making changes. Okay, that's when he's punishing arousal, even though he wouldn't call it arousal. That's when he's going after, he would call it excitement. That's when he's using a different technique to be able to create a shift in state of mind where he's able to get a dog into a respectful space rather than a biting space, where he's able to do a lot of different things. And so I studied the hell out of that, and I got really, really good at it. And I managed to get my dogs, who everybody knew in the neighborhood as like the scariest dogs in the neighborhood, I managed to get them to the point where they could go anywhere, walk anywhere, be around any other dogs, and absolutely not react. We could be walking down Van Nuys Boulevard, which is a very busy boulevard in Los Angeles, and lots of foot traffic, and it's a little bit of a dodgy area in certain parts, and there would be like dogs off leash and like barking chihuahuas, and my guys would be like. And then I started doing dog walking. I got hired to do dog walking, and so I started doing that. And I started incorporating big packs, and I had Oakley, who was my bad guy. If you look at any of my old pictures and you look for a big, strikingly handsome tan dog, that's Oakley. He's in the middle of the pack, and we're walking 8, 10, 12, 14 dogs. And I learned that I had a certain knack for dealing with that stuff. For once I'd shifted out of being a wreck, and I really got the point of like, okay, I need to step up, I need to be firm, I need to lead, I need to be unapologetic, and I need my dogs to believe me, okay? So this is going to take some work. And so I started doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. And what I saw was that even though I didn't have the best technique or the best tools, like I found a couple prong collars at Petco back in the day that I didn't know any better. I put it over their heads because, and I'm sure they were like the links were probably like this big, but I didn't know any better, and neither did anybody at Petco. So I put it over their heads, and it was better than a flat buckle collar. And so I kept working. Eventually I discovered e-collar stuff. I discovered Jeff. Jeff's radio show had a lot of impact. Jeff was talking more about very straightforward, very like simple approaches to dealing with challenging situations, giving people permission to say no, giving people permission to correct their dogs, giving people permission to not do like 40-hour intense protocols to try and get their dog to go in a crate. It was much more like, we're going in the crate, and this is going to happen. We're going in the car, let's go. I mean, like, and it wasn't all just about force, but it was also not about just like pussyfooting around with the dog. And so Jeff gave me, so I had the kind of Caesar natural kind of ability of interacting with dogs in a very hands-on kind of way. Then Jeff, I started watching, showed a lot of prong collar work and basic obedience, which I didn't really have much experience or much care or love for. But when I saw Jeff using it, I was like, there's some pretty cool stuff that I can maybe incorporate. And then I jumped into contemporary e-collar training, which once again, there wasn't very much information on it. And so I searched as much as I could. I found written protocols by Lou Castle, who's a dog trainer in LA. And that was about the best I could find. The DVDs that I found by some very famous trainers, some videos that were available. I couldn't make heads or tails, which might have been on me, but reading the protocols, I went out there with a list of paper, and I started working with my dogs on e-collar stuff until I got them to where they were fully e-collar trained, and that like changed everything, because then my dog aggressive dog could be off leash, and I don't recommend this to everybody, but I knew what I was doing. I realized like I had a knack for it. We could be off leash and jogging around a certain area, and like dogs could go by, and he'd be like, and I'd be like, you best think about it, and he was like, I'm good. And so anyways, that's how I got into it. Started with dog walking. When I realized that I was able to walk dogs that other people weren't able to walk, and the word started to spread more and more and more that like, hey, if you've got a troubled dog and nobody else can walk him, this guy can walk your dog, walk him with a big pack, so people felt good because the dog was in a social interaction, and we would just cruise around. I did that for several years until I started getting, just organically, clients started asking for more help and more help and more help, and it spread and it spread and it spread. And to be honest, I think I just kind of had, as somebody who studied drums for 35 years and put in hours and hours and hours, dog training came more naturally to me than playing drums. Even though I ended up playing at a pretty high level of drums, dog training always had once I got it, I got it. And so I hope that helps. I just want to add a couple things on to the end of this that aren't from Emmanuel, which are from Amy and Laura, who are also on IG. And they were both asking, how do I start my dog training business? I'm really interested, I'm really motivated, I'm really excited. How do I get into it? And it's always the same kind of like unexciting, basic foundational ideas, which are work with a ton of dogs, volunteer where you can, intern where you can, train family and friends' dogs. Just get out there and work as much as you possibly can with dogs that need help, with organizations that will let you do your best work. Now, you don't want to work for a rescue or a shelter who's like, all we do is treats, and unless that's all you want to do, and unless you feel good about that. But if you truly want to help dogs and you truly want to explore what this experience can offer and what kind of changes you can make, then I would recommend you start finding places where they'll let you use the tools that you know can create absolute transformations and help challenging dogs. So do a ton of that, and then when you get to the point where you're like, yeah, I think I got it, then you can put yourself out there at reasonable rates. Don't try and like charge $4,000 board and trains. Just do nice, light, low-priced, low-tiered dog training and see what you can get. And then, the market will tell you. If you're doing good work, the market will increase for you. You will see more phone calls, more emails, you will get more referrals, all of that stuff. And if you guys don't, then it means you need to go back and either rehone your skills, rehone your human skills, or rehone your business skills, or hone them for that matter if you haven't done any if that makes any sense. But make sure that you've got all that squared away so you can jump in and have a good shot at it. But you got to have great skills, you got to be great with people, and you've got to really think about it as a business, because it's not just about the fun of training dogs unless you just want to volunteer. So cool. Let's move on to the next question, unless you have something to say.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah, question
number 4. Numero 4. I have no idea. I never learned
How would
any.
you say it in German?
4.
Yeah. How would you say it in Polish?
4.
I like steady.
French.
Steady as she goes.
4. Anyway. Question number 4. Instagram from Arthouse Lady. Hi Sean, I have a 8.5-month-old pit lab mix. I adopted him when he was 4 months old, and he's always been extremely people shy. Loves dogs though. I have tried my best at socializing him, working with a trainer, but now his shyness is turning into fear aggression. He's sometimes barking and growling at people and won't let any strangers pet him. It gets really bad when we have visitors coming. He gets extremely territorial. Any help would be appreciated.
Just trying to camouflage some of my extra cookies. Okay, once again, another freakingly tough question, and she's telling me you got to keep these questions brief. So
I didn't say that. They can't hear me say that, so I never said it.
But you did.
But
Okay, so a couple things. I'm gonna try and be brief, so I don't incur the wrath. I'm worried about your socialization of him. For most folks, socialization means having your dogs interact with people or other dogs in close proximity, under pressure, in situations that they're not comfortable with, in the hopes that that will create more comfort, where they will slowly get to a space where it doesn't bother them. They'll become adapted to it. They'll become habituated to that situation, and more comfortable with it. The fact of the matter is with socialization, if you are taking a dog who's nervous and you're putting them under pressure, which it sounds like you're talking about having people pet your dog who's already shy, and you're talking about putting your dog in situations. Did you say anything about dogs and dogs?
Dog's fine with dogs.
What's that?
The dog is fine with dogs.
Fine with dogs. So no problems with that. So just human stuff. Okay.
But still, be careful about that too,
Yeah.
because it could turn into something bad.
Yeah. But so if your dog was my dog, I would not ever take my dog to a situation where the goal was to socialize him to where other people would pressure, and pressure doesn't have to be like hugs. Pressure can just be like this.
Closer.
Hey, how you doing? Like, that's pressure. Me, like, hey, how are you? Would you like this? That's pressure. We think our intentions make it null and void or devoid of any kind of pressure, but it doesn't. Our moving in close to a dog, eye contact, trying to share food, trying to create an engagement, all creates pressure, especially for the shy dog. For a dog who doesn't care, they're like, hey, great, come on in. For a shy dog, it's the worst thing in the world. But everybody is under the impression that if I want to get my dog who's shy with people better, I have to get more people in his face, and they have to give him food, and then that will ultimately create a positive association, and my dog who doesn't like people will now like people. What you don't realize, I don't mean you, but I mean the universal you, what you don't realize is that incessant or continuous pressure that you're putting on dogs is creating tension and creating negative associations, regardless of whether there's food involved. Many, if they're really stressed, won't take the food. Some will take it and still back away like this. So it's a really, really, really bad strategy. If your dog was my dog, I would teach your dog an exceptional level of structure, rules, obedience, guidelines, leadership in the house. Like, I run the house, here's what it's like. Boom, 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 boom. Shy dogs, even though like the heart's like, but he's so shy, he needs like, shy dogs need like boom, 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 boom. The less they have structure-wise, the more they feel nervous and anxious about what the hell's going on. So you want to immediately tackle that. And then when you're outside, you want to immediately tackle advocating for your dog. You want to immediately tackle like somebody's like, oh, such a cute dog. And instead of thinking, oh, here's a great opportunity, here's some kibble and you can feed my dog, instead say, thanks. And can I pet your dog? Sorry, my dog's in training, or my dog's not friendly, or my dog doesn't,
no.
or no.
Just no is
or,
fine.
Or just no, but I'm just offering people other options. You're German, so
I just don't see.
You don't.
I feel very strongly about not having to give people excuses why they cannot come into your personal space.
I'm totally down with you.
I don't say yes.
I'm totally down with you. It's just not everybody.
I'm encouraging people to be more
empowered. Exactly. And I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying not everybody has that same thing. So whatever you've got.
I get that.
So whatever you've got, when you're out with your dog, if you could please, pretty please, do not let people come into your dog's space. Do not let them kneel down in front of your fucking dog. Do not let them try and offer food. Do not ever let them try and pet your fucking dog. Do not let any kind of pressure, excuse the F-bombs, I hear this over and over and over again, and it derails so many dogs that could be in a better space. So don't let any of that go down. Instead, advocate for your dog. So what will happen is your dog will feel safe with you. Because right now your dog is like, when I go out with you, the chances are very high that you're going to put me in a situation that's exceptionally uncomfortable. So I'm going to be tense, nervous, insecure around you because here's what you put me in, or here's the situations you put me in. Instead, you're walking your dog, you're walking down the sidewalk, somebody's like, wow, what a cute dog, thanks, can I pet him? No. That's her style. And then you take a little bubble around them, and if they give you like, but I really like, I'm sorry, can't. And then you have to have firm boundaries. Like if you don't have firm boundaries, you're gonna suffer with humans that are trying to pet your dog, humans that are trying to push you, and your dog trying to push you. So boundaries are a big part of this. So you need to advocate. And like I said, if it was your dog, I'm just trying to like reach into like how I would visualize it. Like even with Billy right now, our dog Billy, she's 15 weeks and she's going through still like some unsure
More
moments.
like 20 weeks.
More
She's
like 20.
She's 5 months old.
Okay, I need to go back to my math. Okay, so she's more like 20 weeks. So she's 5 months old and she's still struggling a bit, not always, but a bit with things that startle her, things that she's not sure about, people coming around the corner. So what do? There's 2 things that we do that you need to do as well, and it's really simple. We advocate for her and we correct bad choices. So she growls at somebody, she gets corrected. Oh my God, negative association created because you corrected the dog when it felt that, no, the dog already felt the negative thing about the person. It's already there. Your chance of actually blocking it, making it better, really good. Your chance of letting it go or adding food to try and make it better, really bad. So don't do that. So first thing, correct poor choices so your dog has clarity. You're not allowed to do that, even if you're uncomfortable. You're not allowed to growl at people. You're not allowed to lunge at people. You're not allowed to hard stare at people. None of that stuff. Then the other part is the other part of the deal. And that part of the deal is because Billy's cute and young and everybody wants to come up and say hi to her, and we have to say, sorry, you can't pet her. And we'll have people that sometimes will say like, oh, but she's like, it is like...
I'm good with dogs though.
Yeah, I'm good with dogs. We're sitting at a restaurant, so it's like we're paying attention to eating, and the dogs are there, and then all of a sudden somebody comes around the corner and it happens really quick, and they're like, oh my God, and Billy's like this. So first we have to make sure we address her, that she's not allowed to like lift off, and then we also have to address the people. And if you can think about it that simply, you can take a shy dog and help them regain their confidence rather than degrading it by forcing them into situations where they're uncomfortable because they don't trust you and they don't trust other human beings. And I will finish this off with a very quick story about Malu, who is Henri's dog back in LA. And Malu had a lot of problems with human beings. Malu was like a facility dog, basically at a pet hotel. And they liked her because she growled at everybody. So like if you want a guard dog, she was the one. Problem is that doesn't do very well when you bring her home and she's supposed to be a home dog. So she growled at everybody and had some snarling, all sorts of nasty stuff that went on. And what we found that worked, and it took a long time, and so a lot of people are going to be like, that's a ridiculous amount of time. We didn't offer food. We didn't tell people to come up and go to her crate. We didn't allow anybody to do anything like that that created pressure, even though the accepted wisdom is that that's how you make dogs feel better. It's such a simplistic fucking view of how you make dogs feel better. People can't put themselves in dogs' shoes and imagine what it's like to be in a crate and have somebody come over, even with good intentions, and be like, here you go. The dog's like, fuck, I don't trust you. And here you are trying to reach into my crate or put the food forward? No way, no way. And so people don't realize that their intentions, although are good, are freaking the dog the fuck out. So instead, we left her alone. Nobody was allowed to go up to her. Nobody was allowed to try and engage with her. Nobody was allowed to give her food. And what happened, within the course of 6 months to a year, she was about 60% better. The growling, the discomfort, being able to like be let out of the crate and be around interns, dramatically different. After 2 years, like a different dog. Is she still nervous? Is she still a dog that can have kind of a sketchy reaction and be like, whoa, I'm startled? Yes. How is she around strangers? How is she around people how is she around strangers and people she's never met, which are kind of the same thing? How is she around new interns when they show up? How is she around just new people in general? She's amazing. all because we did the opposite of what is asked or expected or put forward as the way to make dogs feel better. Now, I'm not telling you it's the only way, but I want you to really, everybody out there, wrap your head around the concept of why would leaving a dog alone in a crate, and she was in a crate, let me make this really clear. She was in a crate that was in the living room that had the most foot traffic. She saw trainers come through, all sorts of different trainers, interns, clients, dogs. She saw it all, friends, guests, the whole deal. And so her whole deal was just,
Checking people.
okay. And if she misbehaved, same rule, correction. Not allowed to misbehave, not allowed to growl, not allowed to feel this way about that situation. And we just watched and watched and watched and watched, and she got better and she got better because you know what she was doing? She was just like, no one's pressuring me. This is all pretty okay. Then when we let her out of the crate, everybody was told, don't pressure her. Don't try and pet her. Just leave her the fuck alone. What did she do? She got easier. She got better. She got more comfortable. It took time. But what I'm saying is, let's try and re-examine the approach for creating a safer dog. Your dog, a safer, more confident dog. I think the dog is what? Is it 4.5 or 8 months?
8 months.
8 months old. It's a young dog. Like, it doesn't, it's not surprising that the dog is uncomfortable. But if you keep pressuring it to accept things that make it uncomfortable, yes, there's a fine line between pushing dogs to build confidence and pushing dogs on walks through things that they're uncomfortable with. There's a very different thing when it comes to like human engagement with dogs, when they're like, I don't like this, and human engagement says, it's too bad, I'm coming forward because I'm not reading any of your signals. So my biggest suggestion would be advocate for your dog. Nobody touches your dog. Nobody pressures your dog. Nobody gives food to your dog. And then 2, you make sure that you correct your dog for any crappy behavior. Your dog walks like a champ. Your dog heels like a champ, which are kind of the same thing. Your dog recalls, sits down, plays, and doesn't freaking move or budge no matter what goes on in your house. Existence. Teach your dog how to exist around things that your dog's worried about, and watch your dog improve. Watch the confidence come back. Watch things get better. And that's my best advice for that.
Cool. Can I add my 2 cents to
You
this?
certainly can.
This is probably the question that I care, not that I don't care about the other ones, but that has me the most worried for anyone else watching this episode. Because what I see, or what people in general should be able to see, is that most dogs in shelters and pounds and whatever in rescues are dogs that have not been rehomed because someone has been abusing them, and they hate people and are scared of men or scared of whatever because that particular person or gender has been abusing them. It's because they have been put into situations that were very stressful and very pressure filled for them. That's why dogs end up in pounds and look like they are scared of people or scared of men or scared of women or scared of the postman or scared of whatever it is that you think your dog is scared of. That's not the reality. The reality is someone had good intentions of, I let everyone touch my dog so the dog gets socialized. Now the dog feels too much pressure, bites, I can't deal with that, surrender the dog. Oh, the dog was in an abusive situation. Let's have all the men come in the house so the dog can feel better about it. Bites again, gets put down. And that's the reality of like dogs in shelters. That's why I feel so strongly about it.
I agree.
So
100%.
So I adopted the dog when he was 4 months old, and he was already people shy, and you did your best working with the trainer. So that trainer is lying to you, first of all.
Well, we don't know what the trainer suggested, so we have to be careful with that.
Okay.
Just to be fair, the trainer could have said, like, let's advocate, and then maybe things were shifted.
If
so
the trainer
I don't know.
has suggested to you...
I thought the same thing, though.
If the trainer has suggested to you, let people touch him, pet him, give him food, he probably doesn't have enough experience with that stuff. Maybe is ignorant and is lying to you. Maybe.
Can I just jump in and say that it's probably less of lying and probably more of what you said prior, that just...
But I'm just giving options because I don't know.
Yeah, but lying means ill intent.
Yeah.
And my guess would be that very few people would say, like, let's do this because it's going to make things worse. It's mostly just an ignorance, lack of education.
Depends also what you see as lying, because if someone is working with a dog that he doesn't know what the best approach would be and said, this is the best thing because everyone says that, that's lying to me too.
She's a tough customer, guys.
I'm a very tough customer. But what I'm trying to say here is for anyone else, not just you, but anyone else who is working with a trainer and the trainer suggests something but has no proof of, like, I've dealt with this before, then I would just be cautious about that, right? There's a reason why we have so many videos and everything out there. It's because we deal with those dogs, and those dogs have gone through the process and all those things.
Yeah.
So just educate yourself about who you let in to educate you. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
About the trainer.
And that can be challenging because trainers will tell you different things.
Yeah.
Trainer might have one dog that they've worked with, that's their own dog, that they've managed to work through fear issues and things like that. Like I always say, if you're looking for the best evidence for what a dog trainer can provide, look for a bunch of videos that don't include their own dogs, that include a ton of dogs that are in a bad space in the beginning, and then show the process of them working through it, and then show the after effects of the dog doing well with the owner. I mean, that's really the criteria for me. It's like people always want to say, well, I've got this dog and it was like this. It's like, don't give me one fucking dog. Don't give me 2 dogs. Don't give me 3 dogs. And certainly don't give me your own fucking dogs. Give me a big sample of dogs. Mm-hmm. Show with evidence from video what they look like. Show how you work through it. And then show the results with the owner. And then people have an honest shot of actually picking out a good trainer that's a good fit for them, that can actually do the work.
Cool. Can I continue, please?
Continue on.
Thank you. I'm just going through the message to just point out a couple things. So he's sometimes barking and growling at people and won't let any strangers pet him. Don't let strangers pet him. And I'm purposefully making it this simple because it is this simple.
Yeah, I said that earlier.
I know, but it's so important to me that I feel the need to express it again.
You go.
It gets really bad when we have visitors coming. He gets extremely territorial. Mm-hmm. Have the dog in a crate to start off with in a different room. If he's barking, even though he doesn't see the people, correct the barking. Move on to having the dog in...
But he's scared of people. Why would you correct with the barking?
Move on with having the crate in the living room, and don't let any people coming over to your house go up to his crate, baby talk, anything. Just let him be. And then if he does any monkey business of growling or anything, correct that. And then...
But let me ask you, like everybody's going to say, like, but he's nervous in the crate. What? How can you correct him in the crate? How's that going to help?
Because you stopping him from... You blocking the... I don't have the words for it.
Do you have the German words for it?
No, probably not.
You're blocking the emotional pattern.
Yes.
Right? So, and I knew you were going with that, but basically, a lot of people say you're going to create a negative association with the crate, and the dog's already afraid, and blah, blah, blah. The reality is the dog's already in that space, and the best thing you can do is correct it so you can have a chance at blocking it. And then once the emotional cycle, the process is blocked, your dog's like, whew, clean slate. How do I feel? Okay, no one's pressuring me. Things aren't bad. Maybe I can develop a new feeling, a new association with it.
Cool.
Was that what you were going for?
Yes, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, excellent.
Thanks.
Let's move on to the next question.
Cool.
Okay, this one's a tough one.
Question number 5 from Kathy McGinley.
A nice, easy one to wrap it up with.
Hi Sean, I have 2 Rotties, one male and one female. The female was a rescue from a very abusive situation. I have e-collar trained her and she's pretty good. She's a pretty good dog now. My problem is that she has attacked 3 small female dogs.
That's not pretty good.
Since then I have kept her away from all dogs beside my other Rottie. Now my daughter is coming for the summer to my home and bringing her male Rottie to my home. what would you say the best way is to introduce them? I'm hoping that her problem is just with small dogs and or female dogs. This Roddy's a male and very big, so I'm hoping that it will work out, but any help you can give me would be appreciated. I don't know how to start the introduction and what to do after. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah. So
Oh, hold on. Go ahead.
the reality is there's no easy, foolproof answer for this, period. So if I was at your house and I was working with you, I might have some decent insight and I might be able to say, okay, I'm watching how your female Roddy is with the new one, and maybe it feels this way, or maybe it doesn't feel this way, or I wouldn't trust that, or whatever it might be. Get off your phone. You're watching.
I'm watching the
you're
camera in
watching.
front of our front door.
Oh, okay. And are we being attacked?
There was someone looking at the gate. That's why I stopped.
Really? We're watching everybody, so watch out. Anyways, so I don't know what I was saying before I launched into that.
If you were there, you would have some decent insight, but
Yeah. So it's really, really, really hard to try and give you any solid feedback. Let me see what I can do with this. So for one, your dog, you're saying, is mostly a good dog, except it's killed 3 other dogs. Killed?
no,
attacked. Sorry. Excuse me. It's attacked 3 other dogs. That's bad. That's bad news. Now, if they're all small dogs and it's prey-driven stuff, okay, maybe we get a pass on that. Maybe that is a very specific thing that your dog's going after, and maybe because your dog is cool with the other Roddy that it lives with, bringing in another Roddy won't be a problem. My guess is not that, though. My guess is that your female and your male are comfortable together, and so they're okay together, and that's probably a very nice, lucky thing that you have. So let me dive in here. If you're going to go ahead with this, then all the dogs that are involved need to be highly trained. And if you're not willing to do that, or if your daughter's not willing to do that, or if you guys are like, well, we're just gonna see how they do, then expect trouble. Okay? So if your dogs don't all 3 know how to go to place, if they don't know recall, if they don't know how to walk nicely, if they don't know how to manage, and you don't know how to manage their arousal, you're in big trouble straight out of the gate. 3 big ass Roddies who don't have good obedience and don't have good respect and state of mind stuff going on would be something I'd want nothing to do with personally. So that should be the first start. And then, and she's saying already summertime, so it's like it's already starting. So like if you don't have the dogs trained already, you need to bust some serious moves. But I hope you get that. I hope that makes sense. It's like, you bring 3 chaotic dogs, and I'm not saying your dogs are out of their trees, but like 3 dogs that are excited by each other, or just like moving around, and your, like, look at it this way. Your female is like, well, this is like my spot over here, and this is over by mom, or over by dad. Or the other Roddy is doing the same thing with the daughter. This is where my daughter, this is where my owner's at, and this is where I like to keep myself around and kind of guard. And then all of a sudden one of the dogs makes a trespass against that, and boom, you've got a fight. And when you've got a fight with Roddies, as I'm sure you can imagine, those aren't pretty fights, and they're not going to be fights that you're going to easily break up. So for me, when I'm gauging taking risks with dogs, the first thing I do is look at the physical possibilities. What are the physical possibilities of damage? Now, if I've got a couple of Chihuahuas, great. What are they gonna do? They're gonna and
it's easy enough to take them apart without
exactly
stuff
or
happening.
some Yorkies. Obviously dogs can hurt each other, even small ones, but we're talking about very different things. We're not talking about dogs grabbing each other, throwing each other to the ground, and then you trying to get in there and trying to break it up and ending up going to the hospital with a broken hand, a severed finger, loss of fingers, things like that do happen all the time.
Bad things.
Yeah. So there's so many dynamics in play And when and Rotties aren't just like golden retrievers. They're not just like, oh, it's no big deal. It's like, they're like, this is my house. Who's this dog? And why is this dog over by mom? I don't like it. Why is this dog over by my food? I don't like it. Why is this dog by my toy? Why is this dog by my bed? Why is this dog by this neutral spot over here that I lay down in the sun every day that's mine? So there's so many different components of this that could get you into trouble that terrify the hell out of me. So well-trained, highly obedient, highly respectful, and dogs that you are very comfortable and very knowledgeable about how to remove arousal to get them into a calm space. Those dogs come in here, I'd be like, you, and you, knock the shit off, go lay down. Not because I'm mad at them, but that would be, I would muster that in order for all of them to go like, okay, we gotta like take it easy. If you think you're just gonna have your dogs wander around, hey, maybe it works, but it's not something I do. It's something that would terrify the hell out of me. I've seen way too many dog fights. I've seen way too many results of dog fights from owners. I'm not interested in taking those chances. So that's that. If you do have them well trained and they will stay in place and they will do all these things that I asked as kind of like the beginning, then existence is the next part. Everybody wants dogs to mingle. Let's put them in the backyard. Let's see how they do. Let's see how they work it out. No. Everybody I've talked to about like rescues, shelters, people are adopting new dogs. How do I introduce a new dog into my pack? Always the same thing. Over a long period of time. And you're going to say, well, we don't have that much time. My daughter's only here for the summer. Sorry, it's just the reality. The reality is if you have dogs that are unfamiliar with each other and there's all this novelty and then you have them come together, the chance of that novelty creating stress, of uncertainty, of unpredictability, of I'm not sure what your intentions are, I'm going to make a move, are exceptionally high. Dogs that sit in place around each other calmly and can just very like in a relaxed sense like assess, all right, you just hang out over here, you hang out over there, you hang out over there. You're polite, you're polite. Mom calls you, you walk over. You're not being a jackass. Okay. They're seeing all that. They're not intellectually processing it, but they're seeing all that. They're seeing, you're an okay dude. You're an okay chick. I like it. Okay, maybe I feel better. But if you don't take that step, and that step can take 2, 3, 4 weeks. Sorry, but if you don't take that step and you just like let them meet up in the middle of the floor, what do you think happens? All of that stuff that they haven't had time to figure out how they feel about each other has to happen like this, which creates massive stress because now they're all like, was this going to be a problem? Am I in danger? Are you going to make a move on me? Are you going to try and go towards my owner or my space? And so all of this novelty and all this stress builds, and then you get really shitty reactions a lot of times. So the answer is the unpopular answer, which has worked for so many people that message me back over and over again that have brought in foster dogs, shelter, rescue dogs. They're like, man, I just did what you said. Put them on place and I just let them hang out. And over 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they were like, they didn't care about each other anymore. I'm like, exactly. What you don't want them to do is care about each other. You want them to be bored by each other. You want them to be like, there's that Roddy again. I've seen her a million zillion times. She's always hanging out. She's always well behaved. Now you got a fighting chance. Even with that, you get them together, put them in the backyard, you might have a brawl of like epic proportions. I can't say. All I can tell you are the things that I know that if you stack them up, tend to work the best in your favor for a positive outcome. So there's that. Walk the dogs together, right? Everybody always says it, but don't be disillusioned and don't be misled by like, wow, they walked really great together. Let's put them in the backyard. Bullshit. Walking dogs together while being a nice thing it's a sleight of hand thing. It's the same thing with pack walks. You put dogs with owners or handlers that are being strict and firm and like, this is how you walk, don't mess around, do it just like this. The dogs are like on this mission of like, we're walking. And there's all these things that are interesting to them besides each other, right? In the house, it's you. I don't like you. On the walk, it's like, oh, look at that. There's a tree, there's a bird, there's this. So they're not hyper fixated and focused on each other. They're hyper fixated and focused on the walk. And so it feels like this, oh, they're so good. They're walking together. People get so bullshitted by this, especially like pack walks and all this other bullshit. Like, oh, they're doing so great. It's like, I could walk highly dangerous dogs that have injured multiple dogs, including my own, and have them in a pack of 14, and they would not do a single thing because I just said, these are the rules, don't fuck around, and if you make any kind of escalation, I go after it right away. And all the dogs are like, we got it, here are the rules, nice walk, this is fun, oh cool, look at that, instead of being like, look at you, I don't like you. So I hope you can get that distinction, because this is really the meat of it. The meat of it is like creating a situation where dogs don't give a shit about each other because they've been so they've been allowed to spend so much time together with so much just bland existence that they just don't care. So that's an incredibly important piece of this. You need to be reading the signals and reading the tension at all times, because not all dogs get along. You could do all of the stuff right, and one of the dogs in this threesome could be like, I don't like the cut of your jib. And you know what? When I get a chance, I'm going to clean your clock. And you should be looking for that. You should be looking for like side eyes. You should be looking for tension when a dog moves across the way. You should be looking for all of these signs that indicate there's a problem. Somebody's not comfortable. And if somebody's not comfortable, when we're not managing them and we let them have some freedom, most likely that discomfort is going to erupt into a dog fight. I hope that makes sense. It's super clear. Just connect the dots. It's like, here's the indication. Well, he's on place. He's not misbehaving. He's in an obedience command. Then we put him out in the backyard because he's been so obedient. Why is he attacking the other dog? Doesn't make any sense. Sure it does. So I hope all that makes sense. Talked about the physical possibilities. I can't hammer that home enough. It's something where you can end up with dead dogs. It's something where you can end up with highly injured human beings, really bad stuff. I would highly recommend that you're very, very careful, as I've said over and over again. This isn't something to be taken lightly. This is something that you should really, really, really think about. Let me finish this one thought, and then I'm going to let you jump in.
Okay.
So for me, the safest approach would be if my mom was bringing her Roddy over here, right? Say my mom had a Roddy, which is funny to think about. If my mom was bringing her Roddy and I had two, I would say, and she was going to stay here for 3 months, unless I felt like $1 million and like, yes, I'm Sean the good dog. And so I've got a pretty good feel on like what works and what doesn't work and how I can like maneuver situations. Even then, there's a high likelihood I'd say, you know what? I'm just not interested in a dog fight. I would crate the one dog, and then put the other two dogs away, let the other dog out. But we all want this fantasy thing. We all want this little like beautiful picture of like our dogs, our family dogs frolicking. They're all having a good time. And maybe you could have that. Maybe that's exactly what will happen. Or maybe you'll have an out and out bloodbath with your dogs. Nobody knows. So for me, being somebody who doesn't have dog fights, doesn't get bitten, and doesn't want any of those to go on, I prefer safety. I prefer security. I prefer taking a little extra step towards management. I would keep the dogs separate. I would keep the one separate, let the other two be out that we know get along well, and then swap them out. And unless you see some magical kind of thing where they're just all like, we're so sweet and we're so easy and so relaxed and loving around each other, maybe you can start to do something. But even then, I highly recommend against it. Long lines should be on your dogs at all times when you're going to have them out. In case something does go sideways, you can you can have a shot at being able to pull the dogs off of each other without getting yourselves injured. So my recommendation is I personally wouldn't even do it. I personally would keep the dogs separate. Even though I've got a lot of experience, I'm just not interested in a dog fight, especially with giant ass dogs. And I wouldn't want to see either of you guys get hurt. So Nice short answer. What do you have to say?
That's what I was gonna say. Is that like
All that?
no, that realistically, like you just want to have a great summer with your daughter. You're not looking into being a constant family household of like 3 dogs and 2 people. It's just a visit, which means you don't need to have those dogs coexist with each other for like the next 10 years. It's 2-3 months, and then they're going back to their own lives. So really, like, you get up in the morning, so you have your 2 dogs out, swap in the afternoon, have the other one out, go on walks together, make sure you keep distance and you're safe, and then put them all away in crates, and that's it. Like, management is your best option, because if you have your daughter to come visit, you want to spend time with her and not worry about
Not stress
be
about
on the
dogs.
couch and like, oh, let's do plays and let's do all that. It's
100%.
like, no, you just want to like have fun and enjoy each other's company. So do that instead of worrying about the dogs.
I think a lot of people struggle with the idea of putting their dogs away. A lot of guilt,
Yeah.
but a lot of people have the fantasy, and I think you know what I mean. The fantasy is like
100%.
all the dogs, just like they're all getting along.
And just like a really great example, today Shelby was here for the majority of the day. She was here from like midday, and she left at like 9 p.m. She's got Samson and she's got Buden. Buden couldn't care less. He gets on with everything and
He's
everyone.
a little Frenchie.
And then Samson, her big dog, isn't.
He's a big borble.
Ding, ding, ding. But basically, our guy Archie and Samson don't get on very well because Archie likes a lot of space, which Buden
Archie
gives
was
him.
attacked when he was young, and like has
Yeah.
been
A
pretty defensive ever since.
A dog comes in, Archie will go away, which is perfect because most dogs will just leave him alone. Like Buden, the little Frenchie, he just won't go up to Archie because he couldn't care less. Samson is a very pushy dog, so he'll be constantly like, hey, 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 and he walks up and he like boops everyone with his nose, and he's
Yeah,
like,
he's
hey,
like, you
hey,
want to play? You
hey,
want to do something?
constantly. So that's the exact opposite of what Archie needs. Yet Shelby is able to spend the whole day here. Why? Because I'm like, hey Shelby, I'm gonna take my dogs out. Can you please have Samson? And then she'll put him away. I take my guys out. They go in the backyard. While they're in the backyard, Samson and Buden are out here. I'll say, I'm bringing them in here. Can you put him away? She puts him away or puts him outside, and it's a constant just like management of like who is where and what are they doing.
Yeah.
And it's never an issue.
And it's
just
not
an
that
issue.
complicated.
No, it's
Yeah.
only an issue if you make it an issue because it doesn't feel right. The truth is, it feels perfectly fine because both dogs are safe and both dogs are super happy.
And when you say feel fine, you're talking about emotionally,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
people feeling like, oh, but like one's crated away and he's
Yeah.
sad because the other 2 are out. It's like, no,
No, he
they're-
couldn't care less.
they're fine. So, anyways, guys, that is a boatload of heavy-duty questions. Only 5 questions, and it felt like I answered 5.
We are not gonna make a next
100.
week's episode if the next questions are gonna be like that.
Yeah,
We're just
well,
gonna be like, no.
I think
no.
we're going to have a special guest next week. I'm not saying who it is.
Don't tell them.
I'm just saying a special guest.
We will have a special guest.
Yeah. So we're going to have a special guest next week. We'll be advertising. We'll be broadcasting from Los Angeles because we leave tomorrow. So we're trying to stay on this weekly thing. So bear with us if we're a day late or 2 days late. Know that we're trying. Know that it's just like I said.
We're doing our best.
We're doing our best. Last night was a shit show. I could not muster a good answer. I couldn't muster anything witty. I couldn't muster.
Words.
I was musterless. Anyways,
You have
guys,
to say the thing.
what's that?
And this is the Good
I'm
Dogs.
still learning. What is it?
The Good Dogs Q&A Saturday episode number. You have to say bye.
Why don't you say it? It'd be good.
No, I don't want to.
Go ahead.
No, it's not. It's not what I do. It's what are you doing?
Guys, it's been so long since I've done this. I've literally had to go back through the old videos and be like, what did I used to say? And so I'm still trying to remember and figure it out. So what do I do? This has been...
And this sums up the Good Dogs Q&A.
You sure I do that?
Something. If not, that's something what I say we are doing now. So you do it.
So you're doing it. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I'm just going to do my own thing. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. We're 148 episodes episodes
Almost
in.
150.
almost 150. We'll hit 200 pretty soon. So I just want to thank you guys for watching. And I'm hoping that we're giving you guys some solid value, some solid information, some things that maybe you don't find elsewhere. And we'll keep doing our best to pull, like, I could have tried to pull the easier questions, but like I tried to pull the best high value questions that would help the most people here. So if we didn't answer your questions this week, there's always a chance we'll add some on from this week on to next week's. So just because they didn't get answered doesn't mean that we don't love you or that we won't eventually get to your questions, because we might surprise you, which would be a nice surprise. So anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week at some point, and we love you, and
Love you and leave you. Like the Irish say.
what?
I love you and leave you.
Is that what the Irish say? Okay, I'm learning about my culture. I'm not sure what that means. Anyways, guys, we love you, and I guess we're leaving you. We'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Q&A Saturday, episode number 148.